Welcome. What do we think of when we think of Egypt? We think of the pyramids, don't we? We think of Tutankhamun. But there's more, a very great deal more. I'm Dr. David Salter. I live in England and by profession I'm a research scientist. But I've always been amazed and impressed by the wonderful two lands of Upper and Lower Egypt with their cultural history of more than 7,000 years. These are the people who joined together to form the world's very first nation state, nourished by the Nile. They built the world's very first stone building, the Step Pyramid at Saqqara. And at Karnak, they built the largest temple that has ever been built. But today, I want to bring you a story of how Egypt is trying to build for the future. Egypt needs to overcome the political turmoil and extremist violence which have so greatly marred the last few years. Outside Egypt, we've been able to see only a little of this on TV reports. It's been hard to understand its causes and the massive scale of its effect. But we need to understand and to help if we can, because what happens in Egypt will affect us all. When the tomb of Tutankhamun was discovered in 1922, Egypt was leading the Arab world in culture and sophistication. Cairo was the Paris of the Middle East. There were many Christians in positions of influence, and relations between Muslims and Christians were good. But when, in 1952, the corrupt King Farouk was ousted by a military coup led by Colonel Nasser, Egypt entered a period of Arab socialism, encouraged by seizing the Suez Canal from European ownership. Increasing financial problems were made worse by a quadrupling of population from around 20 million in 1950 to over 90 million today, and the rapidly rising oil-rich states in the Gulf only looked to Egypt for cheap labour. Egyptians suffered a loss of respect for their country, combined with high levels of corruption and massive differences between rich and poor. Later presidents unfortunately lacked the star qualities of Nasser. Anwar Sadat was assassinated in 1981, and the growing power of the Muslim Brotherhood and its various political manifestations led to the ousting of Hosni Mubarak in 2011 as part of the Arab Spring. Although the political wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, the Freedom and Justice Party, gained the majority of votes cast in the elections which followed, turnout was poor, and the majority of the population remained unconvinced of the program of Islamization pushed forward by President Mohamed Morsi. Millions of ordinary Egyptians turned out onto the streets to show their disapproval, demonstrating in huge numbers in Cairo's Tahrir Square. Pro-Morsi demonstrators gathered elsewhere, and the country was deadlocked until the army forced the president's departure on the 3rd of July 2013. But pro-Morsi demonstrations continued, especially in Cairo's Nahda Square and Rabaa al-Adawiya Mosque. When they refused to leave, they were forcibly dispersed on the 14th of August with the loss of many hundreds of lives. This was tragic. As Amnesty International reported, extremists among the mainly Muslim pro-Morsi supporters encouraged revenge attacks not against the army but against Christians, who were viewed as supporters of the army and much easier targets. Christians form about 10% of the population in Egypt, and the overwhelming majority are members of the ancient Coptic Church, founded by St. Mark the Apostle in 43 AD. In extremist attacks on the 14th of August all across Egypt, the Copts suffered terribly. The head of the Coptic Church, His Holiness Pope Tawadros II, compiled an initial list showing 32 Coptic churches and cathedrals looted and completely burnt out, 19 further churches attacked by gunfire and Molotov cocktails, and many other Coptic premises burned, including 5 schools, 75 shops, 39 houses, and 15 pharmacies. Altogether, 43 churches were completely destroyed, and a further 207 Christian properties were attacked. A number of people were killed, including at least 2 burned to death. Those and other personal losses will never be forgotten. And the attacks did not end on the 14th of August. This film is about how the faithful Copts are trying to live in peace and love while extremists are still killing both Muslims and Christians. I'm a member of the Minster Church of St Andrew, which is not Coptic, but is the oldest and largest Church of England church in Plymouth. Knowing from previous experience in Egypt that many people there are desperately poor, I was greatly concerned by the extremist attacks on churches, schools, shops and pharmacies which affected all Christian denominations, but mostly the Copts, as they are the great majority of Christians in Egypt. I wanted to try to help those affected, not just by prayer, but by any practical means as well. At St Andrews we raised money, and several clergy suggested I take this donation to Egypt myself and report back on where the continuing need is greatest. We were amazed to hear from Coptic friends that St Andrews was the first non-Coptic church in England to offer practical support to the Copts in this way. In my 2-week visit, I saw many things we're not used to seeing in England. There were camels speeding along in the back of a lorry on the road to Cairo. There was a man selling balloons at night as tanks prepared to patrol the curfew in Egypt's second city, Alexandria. And the famous seafront Corniche was deserted after the curfew had begun. Especially in Upper Egypt and the Western Desert, I met great poverty and great generosity never encountered on the tourist trail. And everywhere I found the Copts to be an inspiration in the way they steadfastly continue in their faith.
So, today I'm hoping to meet His Holiness Pope Tawadros II, the Pope of Alexandria and Patriarch of the See of St Mark, the head of the Coptic Church. And I'm hoping he can advise me on who I should meet, where I should go to find out more about the situation in Egypt. I don't know quite what to wear to meet a Pope, so I put on my best university tie and I'm hoping for a very successful meeting. I'm really looking forward to this.
So that was an amazing day. There's a journey through Cairo traffic to get to the Cathedral of St Mark, which is guarded by 2 tanks close together so that only one car can get through at a time. After handing in some letters and waiting quite a while, I had the wonderful opportunity of meeting His Holiness, who is a really marvellous man, kind-hearted, good sense, and exactly the sort of person it feels right to call Your Holiness. I explained to him why I'd come, in order to bring respect to our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ of the Coptic Church, even though we ourselves are not Copts. And I asked him to help us know how we could help the Copts in their great suffering in Egypt at the moment. We want to learn from them in their steadfastness and their spirituality, and we hope perhaps we could help them by prayer and maybe material things as well. His Holiness kindly did say that he was grateful for our love and respect brought from England, that he appreciated those things, and that he would be glad to help us work with Coptic communities in Egypt, because I said we wanted to arrange partnerships with these people who we want to help and believe that they can help us. Some of his bishops
are going to be invited to help us in this. I asked His Holiness how to best see what the sufferings of the Copts in various parts of Egypt are at the moment, and he told me where it's possible to go to meet people and bishops who can tell me about these things. And he said that he had lived in England for a while because he was a pharmacist before taking up the priesthood, and had lived in England, in Oxford, where he had a fellowship to work at the Churchill Hospital. And I said, Your Holiness, you may have seen that I'm wearing my Oxford University tie. And I taught at the Churchill Hospital in Oxford during my own days in Oxford. And this was quite an amazing moment. It just shows how small the world is. And it was altogether a truly wonderful meeting. I'm very grateful to His Holiness for this opportunity. And he then went off to the Cathedral of St. Mark to give his weekly sermon, which is televised nationally, his sermon and service, which there were hundreds and hundreds of people attending in an enormous cathedral. It's the largest in Egypt. I had the privilege of sitting quite close to the front and was able to see a great deal of the service. And I even managed to pick up a few threads of what he was talking about, which I was pleased at. So altogether, quite an amazing day, and I really hope this is a good beginning for the rest of my tour of Egyptian Coptic groups who I hope we'll be working with in future. We now have a wonderful opportunity to hear from Anba Pachel, who is the Bishop of Sohag and the regions around Sohag, which is a city to the south of Minya, a large city, again about the size of Plymouth. Here there was a really, really serious attack on the church, which has been filmed. We can actually see the people doing the attack. And I'd like to ask the Bishop for his comments on how this attack took place and what has happened since. So, Anba, please tell us about the attack on your church in Sohag.
Yes, the people, يعني الناس اللي هم تبع الإخوان كانوا دايما يعملوا مظاهرات ويمروا من ناحية الكنيسة ويضربوا الكنيسة بالحجارة ويشتموا شتايم مش حلوة خالص على البابا تودروس وعلى أنا وعلى المسيحيين، ومتكررت عدة مرات. وبعد فرض الاعتصام بتاع رابعة العدوية حصل ان هم في الصبح حوالي الساعة 8 الصبح جم واقتحموا الكنيسة. هنا الكنيسة تعتبر الكنيسة الكبيرة في سوهاج، تعتبر المطرانية، فيها ثلاث مباني، 3 كنائس. فدخلوا معهم تقريبا 20 حمول بوتاجاز، ودخلوا في 3 كنائس، وكل كنيسة حطوا فيها كمية من الأنابيب وولعوا فيها نار. في أنابيب انفجرت وبس ربنا ستر إنه مفيش حاجة يعني حصلت، لكن الكنيسة الكبيرة بتاعت سان جورج اتحرقت. مذابح كلها 3 مذابح اتحرقوا، وفي حاجات كتيرة أخدوها. كان في الفناء بتاع الكنيسة في 10 عربيات كسروهم وحرقوهم. كان برضو في اليوم ده هو كان في الناس معوقين كانوا بيصلوا. ربنا ستر انه في بعض منهم مشي وفي بعض طبعا ضربوهم وسحبوهم وحاجات زي كده يعني. في برضو 4 شباب أصيبوا بمرقات نارية منهم هم، لأن هم استعملوا الرصاص واستعملوا الأسلحة بتاعتهم. كان يعني يوم في منتهى العنف وكميات كبيرة من الذخيرة هم ضربوها على أولادنا المسيحيين. في برا الكنيسة في حوالي 10 محلات كلهم اتحرقوا تبع المسيحيين، وأخذوا الحاجات، سرقوا الحاجات اللي فيها. وفي برضه أتوبيس تبع جرجس حديدي كمان برضه اتحرق، وفي 3 عربيات تانيين اتحرقوا. قعد بتاع ساعتين يمكن. جت عربية المطافي علشان تطفي النار فسرقوها ومشوا، ضربوا العسكري والضابط واخذوا العربية ومشوا. ودخل الضابط يعني تعاون مع الشباب هنا وعرفوا النار.
عربية البوكس وضرب يا مري يا ولد يا حسام بريكي بريكي الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Amber, thank you for that guidance. Is there something that maybe a church in England or churches in England can do with other churches here in Egypt, sort of church to church? Maybe sharing news or some other partnership. Can you suggest any ways that we can help together sort of as partners?
ممكن أول حاجة pray for us for the church in Egypt.
Yes.
يبقى في صلة بين الكنيسة هناك وبين سيدنا البابا الأنبا تواضروس، لأنه يعني هو the head رأس الكنيسة الأم. يعني يبقى في تبادل، يعني تبادل المعلومات، وتعرفوا أخبارنا وتعيشوا معانا في الحياة اللي احنا عايشينها. وده كله بيبقى يعني عن طريق زي قداسة البابا أو الكاتدرائية في القاهرة.
Okay. Thank you. We'll try to work on that.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Reports of the damage to Coptic churches have often shown the destruction of the Emir Tawadros church in El Minya. Minya is a beautiful city in Upper Egypt, right on the banks of the Nile, and with a population of about 250,000. I had the great opportunity to visit the Emir Tawadros church to see the damage for myself and to talk with one of the clergy, Father Timosawis, about the attack and about the future.
It was a very gloomy day. It's 14th August from the beginning. It was in St. Mary fasting. It was about 14 August. After the Mass, we had a daily Mass from 6 to 8 morning. It's about 15 minutes later. It's about 8:40. Most people were asleep. We didn't know exactly what about happened in Rabah. 8:40, you have a mosque near the church. We heard Ibn Ma'zun cried and wept loudly. Your brothers were killed in Rabah.
Yes.
Wake up,
Yes.
and try to defend them.
Yes.
In Arabic, they call the word al-jihad.
Yes.
Al-jihad. We say after 30 minutes, it's about 8:45 in the morning, with disturbance everywhere in the streets or every place, disturbance. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. We saw fire smoking everywhere.
Yes.
After they came to the door and they took big gases,
Yes.
bombs
Sort of
from
butane cylinders.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes, the biggest
Yes.
ones.
Yes. Yes.
They pushed the door,
Yeah.
and then they entered not the main door,
Mhm.
yes, the beside side door. They entered. They had their time to steal what they want from conditions, screens,
Yes.
LCD screens.
Yes.
There was about 18 conditions, about the same, more than 12
Yes.
screen, and they had some not the safe. They couldn't enter. So they put in front of the sense photos, pictures for them. Money, that's money. After that, they burned it. They took even the seats, sofas,
Yes.
not chairs, only
Yeah.
sofas. They
Yes.
took them and they changed it. They turned them and they carried them out. Carried them.
Yeah.
Yes, carried them. And they took some of the sofas in front of the streets,
Yeah.
along the street, and they fired the sofas to make all the streets smoking fire and so on. Fire everywhere. The sun disappeared this day
Yes.
because of
Thick
the
smoke.
thick smoke and gloomy. It was a gloomy day,
Yes. Yes. Terrible.
all the day.
Terrible.
A terrible day. And all the people, most of the people on the streets, it's about 140 families in the street. All of them are Christian, and they are old people. In fact, the first two masses in our church here in Izmir, it was in people's 3 tiers. All people, priests,
Yes.
even children
Yes.
were crying, not
Yes.
only weeping in our church.
Yes. Yes.
It was a funeral day,
Yes.
or it was a funeral week. I don't exaggerate if I tell you up to now.
Yes.
And Father Bishop Macarius,
Yes.
when he came the first 2 days later
Mm.
after the fire, he phoned me and asked me to get a small place here to pray.
Mm.
I told him how.
Mm.
Fire everywhere. Even during praying the first mass,
Mm.
fire was still.
Well,
The fire was there 4 days.
Still smouldering.
4
still
days.
smouldering, yes.
Yeah, smoking everywhere.
Yes.
Heavy smoking. We
Yes.
prayed this mass yes, in just this small area.
Yes.
After a week after, we prayed a mass every day.
Yes.
A mass every day. No seats,
Mm.
no roof.
Mm.
All the people were standing. Even people more than 70 years
Mm.
were standing.
Mm.
Air, sun, dust,
Mm.
and people. The first mass, the first Sunday,
Mm.
4 days after the mass, people were standing in the streets
Mm.
in front of church. People were around the streets.
Mm.
We didn't use microphones.
Mm.
They couldn't hear us.
Mm.
And maybe just to defend people were more brave
Yes. Yes.
after this action.
Yes. I think that it's a terrible, terrible thing, but maybe it gives strength to people
Yeah,
in their faith as well.
totally. And people stared at us,
Mm. Yes. Yes.
helped us.
Yes. Yes.
And they were, when Father Macarius prayed,
Yes.
Bishop Macarius prayed, basically there were more than 100 deacons.
Yes.
Most of them were children.
Yeah.
Even parents
Mm.
weren't afraid
Mm.
about their children.
Mm.
More than 100
Mm.
in this area.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And people were everywhere.
Yes. So, out of the ashes, as we say in English, that there will be a new growth,
Yeah.
a new birth,
Yeah.
but it will take time. Yes.
This is our Coptic church.
Yes. Yes.
This is the real church,
Yes.
Coptic church. Stand up
Yes.
on blood.
Yes. Yes. Well, I think for 2,000
I
years.
think Father Gorius, one of them said, one of the
Yeah.
parents said
Mm.
that seeds,
Mm.
the blood of martyrs are the seeds of Christian.
Yes. 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 The blood of the martyrs
I-
is the
I
seed of the
think-
church. Yes.
I think they believe that they could kill Christianity,
Mm.
Christ and Christianity, but they found
Mm.
it grew more
Yes.
and more.
Yes. Yes.
Here in Minya, I've heard that there was also an attack on an orphanage, which to me sounds really terrible. And I think to most people will also find that to be really terrible. To learn more about this, I'm going to be hearing from John here, who is going to talk about what happened to the orphanage. So John, please tell.
هو الاعتداء اللي حصل على جمعية جنود المسيح للأيتام حصلت يوم 14/8 عقب فض اعتصام رابعة العدوية والنهضة. الملجأ كانت من الأماكن المستهدفة، أو الجمعية كانت من الأماكن المستهدفة لأن قعدوا فترة من أيام ثورة 30 يونيو لحد فض الاعتصام، يعني من 3/7 لحد 14 أغسطس، وهم قاعدين جماعة الإخوان المسلمين والجماعات الإسلامية قاعدين في ميدان بلس. وكان الملجأ من أهم الحاجات اللي عينيهم عليها، وكنا متوقعين إن يوم ما يحصل أي خراب أو يوم ما يحصل أي حاجة كانت هتحصل على الملجأ. وفعلا يوم فض الاعتصام خدوها تدريجيا من كنيسة الأمير تدرس، مدرسة الأقباط، بعض المحلات التجارية بتاعت الأهالي اللي في الشارع. بعد كده اتجهوا على جمعية جنود المسيح للأيتام، وفعلا دخلوا سرقوا الحاجات المحتويات اللي جوه، وبعد كده ولعوا في المكان كله. الملجأ تقريبا عدد الأولاد اللي موجودة فيه يعني حوالي 150 أو 200 فرد. كنا متوقعين 100% ان اول حاجه هيطول اعتداء من جماعه الاخوان المسلمين هي الملجأ. وفعلا اول ما حصل الاعتداء الاولاد ما كانوش عارفين يهربوا ولا يعني يحاولوا يطفوا المكان، ان هو الحريق كان كبير جدا فما قدروش يسيطروا عليه، فالتجأوا ان هم يطلعوا على السطح ويهربوا لبيت شخص مسلم تاني جنبيهم. هو الراجل كان محترم جدا فعلا ورحب بيهم وخد الولاد عنده لحد لما الدنيا هديت وهرب الاولاد من عنده. فضلوا مستخبين فيه لحد لما اهاليهم جم واخدوه، وهم عند اهلهم لحد دلوقتي تقريبا احنا داخلين على الشهر الثالث، لان هو المكان هناك غير صالح للاقامه، فهم منتظرين لما المكان يعني يتجدد ويقدروا يرجعوا يسكنوا تاني في الملجأ.
Thank you. I think it's a very difficult situation, but thank you for telling us about it. Thank you, John. Here we are in the Church of St. Moses in El Minya. This church is famous now for some very terrible reasons. The damage you see around you here has become very well known across the whole world, I believe. And how it came to be this way is a sad but very important story. Here to tell the story is Father Victor, who leads the congregation in this church. So, Father Victor, please tell us what happened here to make this terrible damage.
14/8/2013 تمام الساعة 9 مساء قام مجموعة من المتطرفين بالهجوم على الكنيسة، وقاموا بتكسير الأبواب واقتحموها من الجانب القبلي والجانب البحري، وتم دخول الكنيسة وابتدوا ينهبوا ما فيها ويولعوا النيران في داخل الكنيسة وفي كل الأجزاء اللي حوالين الكنيسة. وده ابتدى من يوم الأربع بالليل، وكان كل المحاولات لأن احنا نحاول نطفي الكنيسة، لكن حالة إن الأمن ما كانش موجود، ولما طلبناهم كان في صعوبة في تواجده، لأن الكنيسة كانت محاطة بحوالي أكثر من 1000 شخص متطرف، وهم لجأوا للعنف مع أي شخص كان يتواجد في المكان.
So, Father, you're meeting downstairs now on a temporary basis. Will you rebuild this building? Will you put it back to where it was? Or will you have to start again somewhere else completely? Because this is a beautiful building, and I expect people will want to try to save it, but it may be very difficult. So how do you see the future? What will happen in the future?
الكنيسة بتفكر في أهم شيء يشغل بالها هو إنه الصلاة يستمر فيها، وعشان كده إحنا قررنا إن إحنا بنستمر في الصلاة لحين إن يتم طبقا لوعد قيادة الجيش بإنه يتم ترميم الكنيسة ويتم تمهيدها عشان أداء الصلوات. لكن الصلاة لم يمتنع في الكنيسة منذ اللحظة الأولى اللي تعرضت للهجوم. بنعمة ربنا إن شاء الله الحريق أثر على العواميد الحامل للمبنى، ومن تأثير النار فيها الكنيسة بتفكر إن يتم إحلال مبنى جديد، لأن استحالة إقامة الصلوات في مكان معرض لأي وقت ممكن يحصل فيه هدم أثناء الصلاة. فعشان كده احنا منتظرين صدور الأمر بإحلال كنيسة جديدة مكان الكنيسة الحالية. لحضرتك إن الكنيسة بتاعتنا هي الكنيسة الوحيدة اللي في العالم كل ما تتعرض لظروف مماثلة كل ما تزداد صلابة، زي الجذور كل ما تتعمق في الأرض بالنسبة للشجرة بتزيد الشجرة قوة وبتكون تعلى أكتر وأكتر. كنيستنا دي كنيسة شهداء، كنيستنا كنيسة بصمتها واضحة عبر العصور، كنيستنا رغم ممر.
I hope you will tell people like me from England if we can help with praying or in any other way, because I think you will inspire us with your rebuilding, your new growth from these ashes. So, shukran, Father Victor. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm here in Delga, which is about 50 kilometers south of Armenia, at the Church of St. Mary and St. Abraham, with Father Silvanus, who will be telling us about the terrible attacks on this building and the very, very precious ancient church from the 4th century that is also here. So, Father, please tell us what happened to produce this damage.
On the morning of the 14th of August, in the early morning, about at 8 o'clock in the morning, many Muslims called for al-jihad in the mosques. That is because what happened in the Naba al-Adawiyya and in Nahda squares. Yes. The police entered these places and began to move or take the people away from these places. So they killed some, and as a revenge, they wanted to destroy all the churches in Egypt. Thousands collected, gathered here in Delga, and entered the main door, destroyed it, and spread in all the places of the monastery. In about 2 hours old, 3 churches were destroyed, stolen off all chairs, all things of the church.
And the bishop's residence as well.
Yes, and also the buildings around the churches, about 6 buildings, as you see, all of them were destroyed in 2 hours. So there is no security, there is no police in the area. And Delga stayed without police about 70 days. In these days, the Coptics suffered too much. After they finished destroying the place here, they went to the ancient church downstairs. It is from the 4th century. It is named after the Saint Mary. They destroyed all the pieces of the church. As it is an ancient church, they sold these treasures on the altars. They kept digging about 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Yes. They destroyed all the places in the church. Each place they dig, they found nothing, and they move to another place. So they found nothing, but they destroyed the walls, destroyed the ground, destroyed the ancient pieces, stones. So many, about 10 ancient icons were stolen or burned. It is a treasure destroyed. Here, the tomb of the old priest is served in the monastery. All the priests served here were here. And when they come, they destroyed the tomb and burned the bones, as you see.
Yes. No respect at all.
No respect to this.
Yes.
As you can see.
Thank you, Father. And the bones are in here.
Yeah. عبارة طفوس كان الآباء الكهنة القدام اللي بيخدموا هنا كسروا وحرقوا العظم كتير فوق 150 200 سنة القدسك دي عظم بتاع كسروا اتحرق When they finished in the 14th of July, of August, finished destroying here the monastery, they get out to the Coptics houses behind the monastery. They destroyed about 20 houses and about 30 markets
Yes.
for the Coptics.
Yes.
Yes, and they moved the Coptic from their houses, and they stayed in these houses.
So the people had to run away from their own houses.
Yes,
as
so
well.
many people
Yes.
ran away from
Yes.
Dalga
Yes. Yes.
to another places more safer
Yes.
from Dalga.
Yes.
So we stayed in Dalga 70 days until the police came.
Yes.
And they control the ground here, control the minister, control the whole village, and we thank the security and the police very much. They caught all the terrorists who did that, and they still working and they still doing, and it is a suffer for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I must say, I mean, we had an enormous amount of security here
Yeah.
on the way
Yes.
today.
As you see.
There were armoured personnel carriers, there were
Yes.
police cars, men with submachine guns,
Yeah.
many security
Yes.
forces. But
They are doing a very big effort,
yes, yes,
and we are very thankful for them.
yes,
Yeah, and we need them to still in this way.
yes.
Yes, without security, we can't live here.
No.
Yeah.
There are even tanks in the streets. I see
Yes,
as well.
yes,
So
yes.
For a fairly small place.
Yes, we
It-
need
it's-
them because it is a
it's
dangerous
amazing. Yes.
situation here.
Yes,
It is a
yes.
very dangerous situation
Yes,
here.
yes,
We badly needed the security in the old days,
yes.
but now, thanks to God, they are
Yes.
helping us and they are protecting us
Yes.
very good.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. In Arabic,
Thanks be to
yes.
God.
Yes, thanks to God.
Now, Father Silvanus, I understand that because of the tragedy that's happened here, many people have come to talk with you from the media, television companies, newspapers,
Yeah.
and so on.
Yeah.
I imagine that there probably weren't any people there who were focusing on the Christian aspect of this, but
Yeah.
this is a church,
Yes.
and a church is people. So could you please tell us about the community of your congregation, your Christian people here? I hope some are still here.
Yes.
You're
No,
still
no.
here.
Yes.
Brave people are still
And,
here. And so please tell us how this has affected them and how they are trying to build again for the future.
Look, Dr. David, we are here, love Egypt very much, and love our country, and will never leave this country. Whatever happened, we will never leave Egypt, and we love Egypt very much. Leave it blessed from God.
Yes.
People here, Christian people here in Dalga, are very simple, but have a deep faith,
Yes.
a very deep faith.
Yes.
What happened makes them closer to God,
Yes.
makes them in a bad need to God.
Yes.
Even
Yes.
some of them was away from the church, but what happened here closed them to the church.
Yes.
Yes, they were very unhappy for what happened in the church more than their houses.
Yes.
Many of them paid money to protect themselves.
Yes.
Many of them, their houses burned, but they're not sad for their houses
Yes.
as they were sad for the happened in the ministry and the church.
Yes.
The church is our house,
Yes.
our real house.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, it is our home.
Yes.
So when the security came and we began to pray here, it is, I can't tell you, it is a huge number of people stay here and pray every Sunday and every Friday.
Yes.
It is, many people think that Christians will not
Yes.
go to the church as they are afraid. No, they are not afraid. They come here.
In the
and-
empty building.
Yes. They come here and they pray here every
Yes.
Sunday
Yes.
in the mass.
Yes.
I wish you
Yes.
come and see. I can send you some photos. Thousands.
That would be good. Let me just say, because I'm a Christian but not a Coptic Christian,
Yeah.
it's really good to hear about the faithful
Yeah.
life of the Christian
Yes.
people here,
Yeah.
which is which has a long history. I mean, there
Yeah,
have been
yeah.
Coptic people
Yeah.
in Egypt for 2,000 years
Yes, yes.
before the coming of Islam. Even. But also, I wanted to say, if I may, that back home in England, I come from a Church of England church,
Yeah,
which was also bombed,
Yeah.
was also destroyed. And our people met in the empty church as well, like
Yeah.
yours are doing,
Yeah.
and prayed. And eventually, the new church building was built.
Yes, of
or
course.
the old one was repaired, actually.
Yes.
So now we have a rebuilt building and a rebuilt community.
Yeah.
And may I hope that perhaps we can work together
Yeah, of course.
between England and Egypt
Of
to
course, of
help
course,
that
of course.
happen here as well. But I also wanted to say, I think you are an inspiration to us.
Yeah.
You Coptic Christians here in Egypt can inspire us in England
Yeah, of course.
to think about the important things of life, not just where we park our cars or wherever else there might be small problems in our lives.
Yeah, yeah.
These are the important things in life, I think. So
Of course.
thank you. It's really good to hear your story.
Yes, I appreciate your coming here and how you can tell everybody in England
Yes.
about the Coptics and their faith.
Yes.
Sadly, even after the 14th of August wave of destruction against Christian churches, orphanages, shops and livelihoods, attacks have still continued. One of the worst took place just 48 hours before I arrived in Egypt. On the evening of Sunday, the 20th of October, a wedding was planned at the Coptic Church of St. Mary the Virgin in the northwest Cairo district of El Warak. Amongst the guests were little Mariam Ashraf Messiah, aged 8, many members of her family and Muslim friends too. Mariam asked her uncle to take this picture of her as they all prepared for the wedding. But at 8:30, while guests waited outside for the bride to arrive, two extremists pulled up on a yellow motorbike and opened fire on them. 4 people were killed immediately. This harmless 8-year-old Mariam, who died at her mother's feet, and her relatives Mariam Fahri Azza, aged just 12, Samia Fahri Azza, aged 51, and Camilla Helma Atya, aged 62. 18 others were wounded, including Mariam Ashraf's mother, father, and 3-year-old brother, Philip Atya, who was hit twice in the stomach. Also wounded were 3 Muslim guests, one of whom subsequently died of his wounds. Perhaps worst of all, little Mariam herself was killed not accidentally, but by 13 bullets. 13 bullets fired into the most harmless person there. This vicious attack shocked the whole of Egypt. The Muslim Brotherhood denied any involvement, and senior Muslim clerics, as well as His Holiness Pope Tawadros, visited the wounded in hospital. But the fact remains that in Egypt today, even children standing outside a church can be murdered in pre-planned extremist attacks. It shows a most terrible degree of hate.
عايزين يوصلوا للكرسي أو عايزين يوصلوا للسلطة. إن شاء الله بإذن الله مصر بخير. وتعالوا نشوف ده حصل إزاي. الدم ده دمي واللون ده من طيني. الدم ده دمي واللون ده من طيني. والحضن ده لأمي والنيل دموع عيني. الدم ده دمي واللون ده من طيني. الدم ده دمي واللون ده من طيني. والحضن ده لأمي والنيل دموع عيني. يا نخلتي حني بالضل غطيني.
Alexandria is a beautiful and ancient city on the coast, west of Cairo. But by no means all areas are wealthy. And there are many political tensions, shown by pictures of ousted President Morsi ripped from a wall, and emergency patrols of security vehicles. Tank patrols took place at night to enforce the curfew. Tanks patrolling for the curfew. I was very kindly invited to attend the Coptic wedding of friends in Alexandria, but this was to be held on the Sunday after the wedding massacre at El Barak. And just one day before, the newspaper El Naba El Watani reported that a terrorist hit list of 50 churches had been discovered, including the church I was due to attend. Clergy in Elminia were even advising Christians to delay their weddings because of the danger of attack. But good people must not allow terrorists to completely wreck normal life. So the wedding went ahead, and I was privileged to watch this brave reaffirmation of the steadfastness of Christian love. So, what does the future hold for Egypt? I had the great privilege of visiting the early 7th century monastery founded by St. Samuel the Confessor, far into the deep and silent desert west of Makaga. Here, the monks spend all their time seeking a closer walk with God, which, besides a rigorous schedule of worship, can mean working hard in the desert to grow food, or baking their simple and delicious bread, or offering hospitality to visitors who make more than a 20-kilometer journey each way across the open desert. These monks are eminently practical men, and their distance from the everyday hustle and bustle gives them objectivity and wisdom. That evening, I benefited greatly from meeting again the abbot of St. Samuel's, His Grace Bishop Basilios, a warm spiritual leader whom I had met briefly before in Alexandria. Firstly, assuring His Grace that my question was asked with the greatest respect, I asked him how monks living in the desert could guide the rest of us at this awful time when little girls and Muslim guests were being shot and killed by extremists storming into a Christian wedding. His Grace said, "Why kill? Why kill a child? Why kill a child 13 times? We can show that Christians are loving and that whatever the extremists do to our churches, we will still love them. Extremists must change from hate to love. There is no need to hate." I asked His Grace how we could help. He said, "We should pray and work hard for a change of attitudes in our own communities to stop this extremist violence from spreading. The problem is not differences about theological ideas or religious strictness, but the use of violence and bombs to try to impose your views on someone else. Muslims and Christians should pray and work for the extremists to turn from violent hate to love, love, love. Why hate?
باقية يا مصر بحبنا
يروي تراب دمنا واما الوطن ينده لنا
الكل بيلبي نداء مسلم مسيحي يعني مصري
الدم جوه القلب مصري نور الحضارة أصله مصري هلع الدنيا بهاء
لا